Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back to yet another trek, the Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation novel series. We are on Redundant Reincarnation, Vol.1, Lucy and Data chapters. It feels weird how I'm going to actually word this, but it's so funny that last week, just last week, when I was actually editing my thumbnail and putting up the video, before I finally realized this is called Redundant Reincarnation. And I've always called it redundancy because everybody called it redundancy. So I assumed it was redundancy. Apparently, it's probably the web novels call that, but it's just funny that I'm probably going to still call it redundancy because, honestly, redundant reincarnation just sounds off for me. Either way, it's dumb. The redundancy, redundant, all that stuff is stupid. It kind of makes sense, the whole unnecessary title that the original apparently is based off of, but Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation, Redundant Reincarnation sounds so weird. I don't know. Whatever. Stupid. Anyways, the book's great. I don't care because the book's great. But yes, hey everybody. Hey chat. Hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for everybody that dropped by for the premiere. You guys are so freaking amazing. You guys' support, all your kind words, all that stuff means a great deal to me. It's you guys joining me in this journey that makes it what it is, and I absolutely love it. But yes, most importantly, greatly appreciate everybody that supports the channel monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, memberships, all that stuff. Again, it means a great deal to me. Nicholas last week with 26 months membership and a hundo 100 gifted memberships. The chat was dodging like crazy. I am shocked by how well people are able to dodge those memberships. Some people that talk all the time in the channel, they're like, where's mine? And you just have all these other people that are all lurkers, which I appreciate the lurkers, by the way. Even if you're lurking, if you're not talking in the chat, I still love you guys. All these people, I've never seen their names before, suddenly just popping up memberships. It's hilarious in that regard. But thank you again, Nicholas, for supplying all those emotes to everybody. It means a great deal to me. Orsted Cultist with 20 months at this point. Thank you so much for your long time support. Roy's Moist, dropping all those supers. Just dropping them rapid fire. Thank you so much, Rose Moist, for your ongoing support. It means a great deal to me. And then finally, Subro with a super. Thank you. You guys are so absolutely fantastic. But with all that said, we should dive into it. But first, I did realize last week while we were watching the premiere, I'm like, yeah, that's right. I didn't really talk about what happened during the entire wedding because I was so emotional and my mind was so focused on, I need to get through this. I just need to say this line in front of me. Okay, go to the next line. I didn't really talk much about Lilia apologizing in front of Norn, or at least apologizing for Norn's suffering, especially around the idea of Aisha. I think that whole moment there, is huge. It's massive. And yes, again, it's the whole thing of like, why bring it up here? It's just like Aisha finally making friends with, Norn at the last minute. Again, it's all about that like moment of realization, that moment of reflection, that you have that big pinnacle point in somebody's life and you realize that they're kind of moving on to something else and you just have that moment of clarity that comes to you. Yeah, I wasn't really good at this. Or, hey, I kind of failed at this. Or additionally, and really especially around Lilia specifically, is kind of going, I need to say this. I really should say this thing that I've never said before that I honestly do acknowledge. I've always seen this, but I never said anything. This is my role. This is what I'm supposed to do. And everything else doesn't really matter. This is what I'm supposed to do. And I really feel like a lot of Lilia is just kind of being swept up and just trying to take care of Zenith and doing what she can for the family. That a lot of that reflection's probably not really there for her. But I think her finally apologizing to Norn was a good thing. Even though, again, what Norn replies to it is, it's fine, you're like a mother to me, which I think is just, I don't think I ever really seen that with Norn. I can see it. I obviously see it because she doesn't have Zenith there as a structure there. And technically, like, Lilia sort of fits that mold. And she grew up with Lilia being always there. It's kind of like the whole thing we're going to get into with Lucy and seeing, red mama, blue mama, white mama, that kind of thing is sort of that same element there. They're in the household together. They're mother figures. They're adult lady figures in the house. And yes, obviously seeing like her correcting Aisha and training Aisha, she's going to see her as a mother figure in the house. But I never really connected it. I honestly never really connected the idea of Norn seeing Lilia as a parental figure. And again, I think it's mostly through proxy of Aisha. But I think her finally acknowledging, or at least stating that outright, it shows me more Norn's maturity than really kind of confirming to me that she sees her actually as a mother. Just that she can accept that idea and really comfort Lilia in this moment. It's special because, again, I don't necessarily recall any moments where I'm like, yeah, that's a Lilia mother moment for Norn. it's just not really there. It's never shown to us anyways. But yeah, I think really around Lilia apologizing for Aisha, I think is the critical thing there. Because she's at least acknowledging, my daughter kind of gave you hell. And there could be a respect moment there. And that part that I really hate in the idea of Lilia seeing herself always as the maid. And Aisha's always the maid. And I love in this segment of chapters, we're going to kind of have a little bit of a break in that. Where it does seem like she has finally stopped portraying things that way. And finally accepting the idea of being part of the family. That she's finally giving up that facade, that something that I absolutely hate, the inability to be a part of the family, the inability to be a part of this unit of family. But seeing that she's acknowledging that I've sort of caused a problem with my mindset and how I raised Aisha and how I've been strictly on Aisha's case about not being a part of the family and Lilia herself not being a part of the family, that she caused problems. She caused an element of a competition. She literally caused a competition between her daughter. Not that she was going, okay, Aisha, make sure to be better than her at everything, but simply that in treating Aisha that way, she caused Aisha to have to try to go above and beyond, and again, find a dislike for Norn and how she fails at things that she's better at, and yet has all the attention, and that she's still seen as sort of the pinnacle of the family, that she is the daughter of Paul, and I am not. Acknowledging that she failed there is a great thing because it's only in that acknowledgement that she's going to finally give up on what she's doing wrong. Anyways, it was a beautiful little moment there. But yeah, I did have to say when I originally was breaking down that chapter, there was a side of me that really wished that they had brought the blessed child to and she could have been there. There's a side of me that wished they brought the blessed child to the wedding just so that she can at least like communicate for Zenith. That would have been so special. I know it would have totally broken the flow of the entire scene. I fully acknowledge that. It would have been it would have probably felt a little forced, but I can't help but have hoped of at least having, I don't know, maybe an after thing of like the blessed child comes over and says, okay, let's see what she says. And it be like this final, because it's important. Again, this is Zenith, her mother. It's important that the mother be a part of this wedding. And so I can totally see Rudius going, okay, well, let's bring the blessed child. That way the blessed child can say what she's seen. And that could sort of show that she was there. I guess there could be a side of it that could be a fear of like her not really acknowledging what's happening there. Because there is sort of a disconnect about what Zenith sees and what other people see. They sort of got a little bit in that idea of her sort of seeing certain things as more fantastical than what they actually were. It's almost like a very pure view of everything. But it would have been this great little cap there. And again, because she is Norn's mother, that would have been huge. That would have been absolutely huge. And it would have totally broke me. Anyways, those are things that I forgot to talk about last week. So let's dive into the next part, which is Lucy and Dada, Chapter 1. Lucy's First Day of School, Part 1. More Rudius overthinking things like crazy to the amount of Andrew being frustrated. It's cute, though. There's a lot of cute stuff in here. I'm more interested in the third chapter because, and hopefully we can get to that, because that's where I feel like there's some sort of unspoken nuggets. The idea of somebody that is outside of our normal perspectives, because it's a Lucy perspective. Seeing how she views things. So a lot of things that people don't speak about. And I feel like sometimes, and I'm hoping Refugin does this, I feel like sometimes from a pure perspective, somebody that's outside the norm, they will say things that most people won't say, but they don't understand why they're saying it or understand what it is. And I'm hoping we'll get like some little insights that we don't normally get to see. I didn't reformat it from a first-person perspective into a third-person perspective, so I haven't really read much of it. I really felt like as I was editing the first couple lines, I'm like, this feels like this needs to be in first person just because of how she's, again, very innocently viewing things. That if I change it third person, it's going to kind of break it. Anyways, let's get into it. Chapter 1, Lucy's First Day of School, Part 1. Edis and Roxy gave birth to their children, both girls. They named Roxy's daughter Lily and Edis's daughter Christina. This brought Rudius's children to 4 daughters and 2 sons. The house was starting to get cramped, and Rudius considered looking into an extension and family planning. Honestly, I was kind of surprised that even before, like when they just had the previous children, it felt like they were all living in the same room and stuff like that. They were sharing rooms, and I'm like, that house is huge. Like, It almost makes it feel like they only have like 4 rooms. Like, that house is huge. Why is it already cramped? Apparently, the house isn't as big as it kind of seems like from the outer perspective, especially like with the anime perspective. It seems like it's this massive mansion with like at least 8 rooms. But anyways, Lucy turned 7 as well, old enough for elementary school, where she could spend time with people her age and learn the fundamentals. Truth be told, parents could handle teaching the basic knowledge. With school, the point was socializing. People need people. Some have the strength to make it alone, but there are exceptions. School is where you learn to make friends, how to relate to others, how to handle fights well. Here in Renoa Kingdom, there was no such thing as elementary school, which wasn't a surprise, given there was no compulsory education. Very interesting. I mean, there's going to be a lot of stuff in here that I think is more like what Rudius feels is what parents should do, what Rudius feels a society should do for children and education and whatnot. And it's interesting to kind of get into what every individual believes could be what society should do. Like, a lot of people believe in, like, children are raised by the community. You know, children should be raised by the adults. Children should be taught by parents, etc., etc. And it's interesting to see his perspective here where the parents should teach the children, or the parents could teach the children. And I think that's sort of, unfortunately anymore these days, is something of a rarity that the parents would even have time to be able to educate their children. I think that's great. I think the idea of parents being able to educate their children, at least from a young age, is great. I think it does sort of give a lot of bonding experience between the parents and the children. It gives, obviously, the children plenty of time to grow an attachment and a love for their parents. Like, the early age of the child is the most forming time. So to be able to have that experience with the parents rather than, unfortunately, always a stranger anymore, is kind of important. But yes, Rudius sort of does have a very lucky situation when it comes to having so many parental figures in the household to be able to take care of the children on a regular basis. It's sort of like they were getting into with like Elle and Lisa and whatnot, having that option to be able to give Clyde over to them as like this massive mansion that is basically a daycare. It's unfortunately something that a lot of people don't have the capability of doing. But yes, it does kind of suck with the society they're in, the town they're in, and it's really kind of something they showed with all the towns. It doesn't really have an educational system like we have. For Rudius, he felt like kids ought to go to school. He was a dropout in his former life, but in this life, school had given him everything. He befriended Zenoba, met Cliff, Bodigatti, Nanahoshi, Ariel, and also married Sylphie. Without a doubt, it was his time at the Renoa University of Magic that allowed him to build his current rich personal life, and he wanted the same opportunity for every child. Very interesting to get that. I mean, it makes sense that he has this perspective now, because again, coming from his previous life experience, he hated school. I mean, it's literally the core of his trauma, is that experience at school. That's where everything started, really. That's where Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation, the story started that moment right there. Because we barely get anything pre that experience. That's where his story began. That's like his earliest experience is that moment. Very little is touched on before then. So to have this moment in his new life where he goes, I want my kids to be able to go to school. It's like, damn, he has managed to override that really core trauma that he has. And now he wants his children to go to school. Like, if this was prior to him going to the university and all these experiences happening and everything positive that comes after that, he would be like, nah. Which is interesting because, again, post that whole experience, he was perfectly fine with Aisha not going to school. And yes, a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's seen that Aisha was fine without it. She had plenty of, experience. But the one thing that Aisha didn't have was social experience. Even right here, he's pointing out that I think all children should go there, and you can learn plenty from education from your parents, but it's all about socializing. It's odd that back then he didn't go, but I want her to go to school anyways. I should make her go to school anyways because she needs to socialize. And what is one of the big problems that Aisha has right now? She has problems with socializing. She doesn't understand people. And a lot of that is the idea that she is smarter than everybody, and thus she doesn't understand people not being able to do things right. Like with the whole Linnea thing. She does it wrong. I tell her that she did it wrong, but she makes the mistake again. That doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't click in my brain. It is interesting to have, back then, he wasn't pushing Aisha to go to school. And there's almost an element here where she probably would have done better if she did go. Now, it could totally backfire. Because if she goes there and she doesn't accept that socializing, if she doesn't find people to communicate with, and a lot of that difficulty in communicating with people will be the idea that she probably will look down upon them, or at least not understand people that are less smart than her, it's going to be very difficult to find somebody that's equal to her, really is what it is. Very interesting, very interesting. But the other interesting thing here is the idea that with that changed mindset, it is sort of, It's sort of touching a little bit into something I have mixed feelings on, where he has before complained about the idea of people pushing him to go to school because he's seen it as sort of people pushing upon him what they believed he should do. That they were pushing their own beliefs and their own mindsets of how life should be run upon him. You should do this. This is important to do this. What do you know what's important for me? Here he's doing the same thing. He's pushing his own beliefs and his own life experience upon his children. I enjoyed this, so thus they will experience the same thing, right? There is a little bit of hypocrisy here, and I don't recall the exact wording, so I could be wrong here. But I'm pretty sure Rudy's had the same problem from a child's perspective of a parent pushing that upon them. When he announced that at the family meeting last year, the majority of them were in favor. Sylphie, Roxy, and Lilia were on his side. And although Edis said they don't need to go, she wasn't strongly opposed. Thus they decided from an age of 7, their children would attend the University of Magic. He figured even if some of the classmates were older, it'd be a benefit. Yeah, that's the problem there, is that there's like so many freaking students there. Which is kind of surprising that he was even able to actually find where her classroom was. There's so many students there. And yes, a lot of them are not young. It's basically like all ages crammed in one place. Today was Lucy's first day of school. She would go there for 7 long years. More if she failed a grade. Lucy, do you have everything? I'm fine. Lucy stood at the entranceway, her oversized school uniform hanging off her, and her backpack was too big for her body. Everything she had was brand new, including her beginner staff and robe, the magic textbooks and lunchbox in her backpack. Lucy inspected herself in front of the mirror, apparently pleased with her shiny new getup. She had a smug smile on her face. Maybe that was why she sounded so nonchalant. They checked that she had everything over and over the previous night, and it wasn't like she had that much stuff to take in the first place. She would probably be okay, but another check wouldn't hurt. Here we go. It's already starting. Papa Rudius is already starting right now. Here's where it begins. Do you have your handkerchief? It's in my pocket. Do you have your pencil case? It's in my bag. And your lunchbox? My bag. What about a goodbye kiss for Daddy? No way. Rudy, she says she's ready. Sylphie tapped Rudius on the back. She's growing up. She'll be fine. Growing up, she was already 7. 7 meant that she was a big kid. She was so capable. I'm fine, Dada. I'm going to do my best. Lucy made a fist. The gesture was courageous, adorable, and made Rudius extremely anxious. If he were a kidnapper and saw a tasty morsel like her, he'd gobble her up. She may have grown up, but she was still so tiny. Lucy, you mustn't go anywhere you don't know, okay? Okay. If anyone tries to force you to go with them, you shout your name really loud, understand? Okay. If they cover your mouth and they say they'll kill you if you scream, you show them the letter that Dada gave you, and you have them read it, understand? Okay. The letter contained Rudius's message to any kidnapper. It explained the nature of the person he served and the kinds of people that he had connections with, and described what would happen to them if any harm came to Lucy. The kidnapper might not be able to read, so Rudius also brought the matter to the slave traders in advance to ask them to ostracize anyone who kidnapped a child of him. Any criminal who touched his daughter would be blacklisted from criminal society. There's like so much in here that's sort of developing this aspect that could ultimately isolate Lucy, which I'm kind of surprised they didn't get into. With everything that Rudius has done and everything that is Rudius as a status almost feels like it comes to benefit Lucy when there's so many ways that can go in the wrong direction. There's so many ways that it can go in a negative direction. With this specifically, with the whole idea of the criminal empire, with the idea of any sort of thug or kidnapper or anything like that, there's a bigger element that he's not really understanding, is that in a lot of cases, criminals aren't smart. Yes, I think heads of criminal organizations and whatnot are very smart people. That's why they have their organizations. It's hard to make a lot of money and organize a group of idiots without being very smart and very clever. To be able to overcome essentially authorities and whatnot, you have to be smart. But often the people below them are often people that are very, independent. They're not criminals because they're smart. They're criminals because they're stupid. And so a lot of them don't care. And they'll see this as an opportunity. It makes her more of a target, that there's such this emphasis put on the idea that there's a very important person in town and his daughter's walking around on her own. Even then, Rudius found fuel for his anxiety everywhere. He couldn't foresee everything after all. Again, stupid criminals. He was beside himself and worried about what could happen. Lucy, you tell your teacher if any of your school friends bully you. Okay. I'm sure they won't. But if your teacher bullies you, you tell Blue Mama or the vice principal. They'll both be in the staff room. Okay. If you feel like you can't talk to Blue Mama or the vice principal about it, There's White Mama, and Red Mama, and Auntie Aisha, or Lilia, or Auntie Ellen Elise. Or, well, the point is, you tell someone. I'm surprised they call her Auntie Ellen Elise. Why would they call her Auntie Ellen Elise? She's great-grandma Ellen Elise. I guess it's easier. Well, the point is, tell someone. You can talk to Dada too, of course. Or Dada's friends. Don't keep it to yourself. Okay. She's like, oh God, please, it's done, all right? Also, if you think another kid is being bullied, at this point, Sylvie glowered at Rudius, dragging him away by the collar. Meanwhile, Lucy looked a bit dejected. Dada, I'll be fine. Lucy spoke a little uncertainly, glancing up through her eyelashes. He wondered if he should sugarcoat it, go make 100 friends, that sort of thing. But this was important. Bullying can make you feel like no one would help you. But you always had someone on your side somewhere. Here's, I think, where it kind of solidifies in my mind that idea of what I was talking about earlier, where despite the fact that that was a huge trauma for him, he feels like it's a necessity to go there now just because he actually had a good experience. I think that is sort of a, again, very mixed feelings I have on it. The idea of, well, I had fun, so you'll have fun. And again, I think that's really what he was really touching on before. Because this was a great experience for me, you should do it. Because I had fun, you'll have fun. Everybody should do this because I enjoyed it. Here's still that element there, where despite the fact that I found so much fun, because I got so much benefit out of it, I want her to have those benefits. It could also go really south, because it did once for me. I had 2 experiences with it. I luckily had 2 chances at it. And one was a massive failure. Rudy, trust Lucy a little more. After a long pause, Rudius replied, all right. That was right. You sent kids to school to make them more independent. It was no good trying to fix everything for Lucy. She would have to fend for herself someday. That was a long way off, of course, but independence was the whole point of school. That was what they decided as a family. And again, that's good. I fully, despite what I said earlier, that's in perspective of Rudius. I feel that school is important. I learned a lot and was able to grow a lot because I went to a public school. And that's something that I feel that, yes, every kid should have. If not just for school, just the idea of just being in a group of people. There is a necessity for children to experience the idea of running into both individuals that will be their friends and individuals that won't be their friends. It helps them understand that you can't win everybody over. It helps you understand how to diffuse the situations. It helps you understand that sometimes people are going to use you. You have to have those failure points to understand how important positive points are. Lucy, say bye-bye to everyone. Bye-bye. She opened the door and bounded outside. Calling after her to take care, Rudius watched her go. There to see her off was Sylphie, Edis, Leo, Lilia, and Zenith. Roxy had already left to school. Aisha left early for a problem at the mercenary band. The other kids were still snoozing. Okay, there's the answer to what I had last week. This is that scene. So me being upset that Roxy still should have been in the picture. Roxy still should have been in the picture. But that's why. This is literally that scene. So, yeah, that makes sense. And that makes sense why Rudius looks so freaking sad. I now understand why there was like this really like doom look on Rudius's face, like a pained look. Oh, I gotta let her go and I can't go with her. Anyways, bites at the gate too, Rudius. I'm gonna go train, Edda said. I'll start the laundry, Lilia said. Time to clean, said Sylphie. Everyone dispersed to attend their chores, but Rudius remained, staring at the door. Leo stayed at his side, probably worried as well. Rudius wondered if Lucy lost her way. She was supposed to have walked to school with Sylphie and Roxy many times, but today was by herself. Rudius was worried. Maybe it was a bad idea to have a 7-year-old walk by herself. A sweet little girl like her shouldn't walk alone. He thought that he should give her an entourage of tough-looking bodyguards, including a certain green-haired, white spear-wielding man who likes kids. They're gonna drag Richard all the way from the frickin' suburban village just to walk her to school? And then there was classes. Lucy had enjoyed a gifted and talented syllabus from Sylphie, Edis, and Roxy. She wouldn't struggle to keep up, but she might get too far ahead and end up isolated. That, I think, is sort of a concern, I think. With the idea of a know-it-all, somebody that's so talented, she could turn into the nerd that everybody dislikes. I think it is a benefit that she is so young, she's so cute, that I think a lot of the older people will see that and go, oh, that's adorable. There is sort of a benefit, I think, to the University of Magic having such a broad range of ages, and the idea that younger kids that are going to be around her age will find her to be somebody who makes them look stupid. It's a Norn situation. She will be the Aisha to everybody being the Norn. Everybody will hate her because she's so talented and they can't be that talented, and thus they look dumb because she's around. They won't like her being there because she makes them look bad. But having people that are older will see that she's very talented. They will see that this is an incredible thing that she's pulling off here, and she's really cute. And thus they will sort of shield her in a way. Yes, the older individuals could be jealous as well. They'll be upset. They'll think that, oh, this pampered girl that had everything given to her, I had to fight. I've been an adventurer my whole life, and now I'm in this classroom with this girl who's basically had everything spoon-fed to her. She's had a very pampered life. There could still be there, but I think more so than without, there'll be sort of a buffer there because there's such a broad range of ages in that classroom. They didn't know for sure she was special. Vice Principal Genius had suggested it, but Rudius wanted her to have a normal experience. Yeah, I can see Genius wanted to immediately throw her in a special class, which would, again, be more to the idea of isolating her. So he enrolled her as an ordinary student. He made Lucy take the exam, too. She got an excellent score, but maybe that wouldn't translate to class. He worried that he was treating her like an experiment. I mean, there is an element here where you're going to see what happens, and it's going to reflect on what you do with the future children. If she has a bad experience, there's no doubt that Rudius is going to be very hesitant to send the other kids there. Leo. He replied with a bark as Rudius called to him, looking up as if he were saying, no need to say more. They were on the same wavelength. Between them, there was no words needed. Reedy, don't even think about it. Sylphie's sharp voice called out as Rudius put his hand on the front door. He turned and saw her with her hands on her hips, glaring. You promised me yesterday that you wouldn't intervene, remember? No, it's Leo. He wants to go for a walk. At this, Leo turned away from Rudius and paddled off down the corridor to the children's room. That traitor. He'd protect the children from outside enemies, but he wouldn't protect Rudius from his own wife. Look, Rudy. Rudius was rooted on the spot. Sylphie sighed. I believe it was being apart from you that allowed me to grow as a person. You taught me magic and how to study, and that gave me the foundation to stand on my own 2 feet. I was well set up when I was with Lady Ariel after the displacement incident. I agree it's important to teach and protect her, but she can't have everything handed to her. Unless she makes her own discoveries and tries to figure things out for herself, she'll never find her own way. I think Sylphie is definitely a prime example of a parallel to Lucy. Because, again, Lucy's living a very pampered life in that house. And she will become too dependent on Sylphie and Rudius, which does make me kind of surprised that she's so willing to leave the house right now. But even though I do say that, I don't think that they are very equally paralleled here. Because Lucy doesn't have the experience of being bullied, then finding Rudius, which causes a very unhealthy connection to Rudius, before he's taken off and she's disconnected and she finds her independence. There is a strong necessity for her to find that independence. Lucy doesn't have the experience. She has a normal, loving family relationship that doesn't have a pre-established break that causes it to become unhealthy. So, will I agree with her? I don't necessarily agree with her that there's the same thing here, that she has to leave, that she has to do this. Reese had been looking forward to today. He planned to go to school with Lucy as her guardian, say hello to the teachers, then show her around the school. He even took the day off just for that. Then Sylphie came to him and insisted that Lucy go to school by herself. I don't even understand why this is. I don't see any problem with him going with her for the first day. Just to, bring her in there, show her around. It's very commonplace for parents to go with kids on the first day, just to bring them there at least. So I don't know why. I mean, she even if he goes the first day, it's not like he's always going to go every single day. Mainly because when she gets to school, she has to find her classes and everything, and she's never been there before, question mark. They've only implied that she's gone to the gate, that they've shown her how to get there. Just wait and see how she does for now, okay? Let her make her own mistakes. Yeah, Sylphie could be persuasive. She spent 7 years raising Lucy and watching over her. If she can confidently send Lucy off, then he should trust her judgment. He really couldn't do everything for Lucy. For sure, he was worrying too much. Lucy was a good kid. She took good care of her brothers and sisters, was obedient, and apparently had the admiration of the neighborhood children. If anything, she should probably have an easier time settling into school than Rudius had. Yeah, and I think there's an element here where there's a less fear for her safety because she's been training how to fight with Orsted. Like, this girl could probably decimate anybody that came after her. I would probably venture to guess that she's probably to the level that Rudius was when he was at the university. The only thing is that, of course, she hasn't had real combat experience. So there was only one thing Rudius could do: pray that she had fun at school. His prayers ought to reach his God, given that the God was also at the school. In that case, I'll head to work. Got it. If anything happens, I'll handle it, okay? That's the thing right there. That's the comment right there, Rudius. That statement right there should have echoed in your brain this entire chapter, Rudius. If anything happens, I'll handle it. Didn't do that. Spoiler, he didn't do that. All the same, Rudius felt somehow lonely as he headed for Orsid's office. And that's what happened. Rudius recounted the events of the last hour. This was met with silence. Orsid's like, God damn, dude, I don't care. There's no doubt that Sylphie's right. For me, and for her too. It was being away from our parents that allowed us to grow. That goes without question. Rudius was venting. He and Sylphie had come to a decision as a couple. Luckily, the university had lots of people they knew and not much danger. Apparently, Norn's zealous work with the student council had really straightened up the place. Under Aisha's leadership, the Rue Quagmire band had grown, which straightened out the whole town as well. Very interesting. I think they've mentioned that before. Despite all that, Rudius couldn't help but worry. It was a vague unease that he couldn't put into words. It's being a dad. Lucy's only 7, you know. Sending her to school alone when she's still so small? I mean, yeah, I was 7 when I went to live with Edis. And yeah, I was wandering around all of the village when I was 5 or so. But I still think we should at least drop her off and pick her up. What do you think, Sir Orsted? I think there is an element here where you can both acknowledge that Rudius had his memories from his previous life, which gave him less danger walking around the village, but the fact that they allowed him to walk around the village is that surefire sign that this society is a bit different. Children have to grow up faster in this world because it's a very dangerous world. It's got less controls and safety than we do have these days. Orsted glowered silently. It was a face that said, "What does this have to do with work?" Maybe he had gone to the wrong guy for advice. Now that he thought about it, Orsted was his boss, so not the person to complain about this sort of thing. It probably would have been all right if it was at least related to the man god. But family problems were not something he wanted to hear about. He probably didn't know what to say. Nuh-uh, Orsted is part of the family, Rudius, shut up. Lucy didn't even exist in the version of history that Orsted knew. All the same, Rudius somehow felt like Orsted would understand his torment. Orsted then stood up, looking like he was about to fight. Rudius knew better. He wouldn't get mad over a thing like this. Pissing off Orsted would take more than that. No, I think that he really does care for her too, so he understands. You fool. Rudius was shocked. Was he angry? That was unexpected. Use this. Orsted handed Rudius a black helmet. It was a spare of the one that he used to mitigate the effects of the curse. But what would he do with it? I had thought that when he first handed over the black helmet, I thought it was going to be like a magic item that was going to allow him to see what was going on with somebody from far away. Like, here, just use this VR helmet. It'll show you everything. You are not worried about your daughter. You merely want to go see her, don't you? Bullseye! You don't Orsted ain't stupid, dude. Bullseye! I mean, part of it is that he's worried. But, yeah. Rudius realized that was it. He wanted to see her. He was worried too, but he wanted to see her introduce herself to class. See her shoot her hand up to answer teachers' questions. See her standing on tippy toes to reach a book at the library. All those firsts. The university didn't have observation days. He wanted to see Norn at school too, but hadn't been able to. You did see her. What are you talking about? You saw her at school. What are you talking about? He wanted to see Lucy at least. But if I go, Sylvie will get mad at me for sure. Orsted took off his coat, then hung it over Rudius' shoulders. It was like he was telling Rudius to get used to it. First the helmet, now this. What did he want Rudius to do? What's this for? You cannot go. Rudius was puzzled. He wanted Orsted to say it in a way that a fool could understand. Huh? Rudius then realized, if Rudius the man can't go, then he needed to change the man. White coat, helmet. Rudius went to stand in front of the mirror. Is that me? There was no mistaking the person in the mirror. Dragon God Orsted. He became the Dragon God Orsted. Of course, with his helmet and coat, he could become the Dragon God. He would get in trouble for going, so Orsted would go instead. Except, it just wasn't the same. He didn't look anything like Orsted. It was the height and the breadth of his shoulders. The whole vibe was wrong. He didn't have a strange aura of power that radiated off Orsted. The guy in the mirror was a total sham, and it wouldn't pass. It is so funny because they never get into it. Before I forget, I kind of wanted them to get into some idea of what the coat does. Like that there is some sort of like insane OP magical ability in it. That it's going to be a magic item. Like it shields against something like incredible. Or that it does something special. Don't you think people see through this? They only need not know it's you. It was a good point. He didn't have to be Orsted. Just not Rudius. In which case, the helmet would do the trick. Sir Orsted really was brilliant. Sir Orsted, thank you. Orsted grunted, then sat down in his chair again, with a long-suffering air. Was he going to go back to sorting paperwork? Did Rudius interrupt him? Rudius was supposed to have the day off, after all. I like how he always plays up the whole thing of the fact that he's a boss. I mean, Orsted is doing a lot more there than I would have originally thought that he was. Like when Reese made the office and made a room for him and everything, and like was playing up this whole like CEO thing, I really felt like Orsted was just there to play into Reese's whole like fantasy that he had. Like, okay, if this is what he wants me to do in order to do his thing, I'll just do it. But he's actually playing it up. But there's still a side of me that's like, he just keeps playing it up. Like Orsted is filing paperwork all the time, and I bet he probably just doesn't care that much about all the stuff. I'll be going then. Still dressed as Orsted, Reese dashed out of the meeting room. There was no time to lose. Leaving the office, the weather was gorgeous. The sky was blue, perfect for Lucy's first day. Maybe it was the outfit, but Reese felt more powerful. Again, I so wish that they got into exactly what it could do. Like at some point, he just like, he gets scared, he goes to jump or something like that, and literally he jumps like 10 times as high. This must have been how the donkey felt in the lion's skin. Right now, Roos felt like he could wipe the floor with a North god with the tip of his pinky finger. Ah, are you going out, Sir Orsted? Speak of the devil. Roos froze. Someone called out to him from the shadow of the office. Roos looked over to see Alexander Ryback, North god Kalman III. Had he read Roos's mind? Wait, it's not like that, Roos thought. when I said I felt like I could wipe the floor with you, it was the same as like, I don't know, how you feel invincible after watching a boxing movie. You wouldn't hit a guy with glasses, right? I'm just an NPC. Were you going out for the day, Sir Orsted? Shall I accompany you? Roos didn't know what to say. He thought Alec was messing with him, but his eyes were clear. He spoke with sincerity. Oh, and thank you for the other day. To think that the North God style, four-leg stance, had such an advantage. I had never imagined you could be so knowledgeable about the North God style. I have so much to learn. When I remember what I was like in the Burhill Kingdom, I'm embarrassed. It seems like he's changed a lot. That statement right there, I mean, because I had my question marks, like when Ruiz first ran into him again. Again, he was following Orsted around like a puppy. And obviously, Ruiz had a lot of discomfort around him. Like, is he just waiting for his moment? Like, what is he doing? And yeah, it felt like the idea that he's following Orsted, but eventually he's going to want to take down Orsted. Here it really feels like he straightened up. By being around Orsted, he's changed. He's right here saying, I remember how I was back there. I'm embarrassed. It feels like he's really changed how he views the world and what he wants in the future. He's going to become stronger and learn under Orsted, but it's not for the sake of being able to kill everybody. Not that that was the case before, it just felt like it was always about, I need to prove myself, and I don't mind if I kill people to do that. And there was no way that he really thought it was Orsted. Alec had been at Orsted's side constantly these days. He lived in the basement of the office and padded around like he was Orsted's guard dog. Did he really not know his own master? I'm guessing not like Edis. Like later on, like when he runs into Edis, like I feel like just seeing how he walks, she would know. Because they've gotten to the idea of like just understanding somebody based on their stride. You haven't noticed? Notice what? But wait, he was North God style. He could be trying to trick Rudius, like the Death God's enthralling blade, the technique that he used to mislead his opponents. I'm just more surprised that he doesn't tell by the voice alone. Tell me the truth. You know, don't you? Alex stared blankly, but his expression quickly turned serious. He put his hand to his chin, then cocked his head to one side and frowned. You could practically see the question mark above his head. He didn't have the slightest clue. It was a face Rudius had seen dealing with Edis. If this was an act, it was amazing. Forgive me. I'm slow, so I don't know what you mean. Seriously? You see there's something different, right? Something small, I suppose. I'm not good at picking up small details. I can't even avoid traps. I know it's unacceptable, but it's my flaw. He's such a good boy now. He's such a good boy now. Of course, he is talking to Orsted, of all people. There was a different height, build, and they sounded nothing alike. The helmet only weakened the curse's effect. So if Ruiz was Orsted, Alex should have a feeling of discomfort. Was this for real? You'll find your answer in the CEO's office. I see. Thank you, Sir Orsted. Stupid. Stupid dog. Stupid dog. Arf, arf. Alec disappeared cheerfully into the office. Ruiz had thought that he was a bit sharper when he fought him in the Burhill Kingdom. No, he was pretty stupid back there, Rudius. What changed? Was this how he was outside of battle? That would make sense, seeing as Ruiz' own powers of concentration changed outside of battle. At the same time, Ruiz wasn't totally happy about leaving him at Orsted's side anymore. But right now, Lucy was more important than that. Alex's response had demonstrated that, at least from a distance, you couldn't identify him. I wouldn't say that. When Alexander entered the office, Feliostia met his eyes. When she saw him, she hesitated for a moment, wondered whether to ask the question or not. Sir Alexander? Was it, Felia? I'm on my way to CEO's office for an answer, so please be brief. Sir Rudius left dressed like Sir Orsted. Does he have a mission? Alexander blunched. Sir Rudius, dressed like Sir Orsted? Such a possibility hadn't occurred to him. As far as he was concerned, the idea of dressing up like Orsted was so terrifying it was impossible. Why would Rudius dress like Sir Orsted? It was obvious. He clearly was off to do something that required him to appear as Orsted, possibly as a decoy or something. By dressing like Orsted, he would lure the enemy out and keep them occupied, while Orsted achieved a secret objective. That meant this enemy had to be someone formidable that only Orsted could face. Was it the as-yet unseen great power, the technique god? Or Death God Randolph, who was still a source of painful memories for Alexander? Did they ever get into that? I don't think they ever got into Death God Randolph and his experience together. ? I don't think so. It might even be the armored dragon king Pedagogus of the three god slayers. Or could it be Alex, North God Kalman II, Alex's own father? Any one of them could be too much for Rudius to take alone. If he donned the magic armor of his, he could probably win. But then he would be no use as a decoy. Alexander knew how brave he was. Rudius knew no fear. His combat ability was less than Alexander, but the brilliance of which Rudius had fought burned in Alex's memory. If it was the strength to face down something more powerful than yourself, past the point of good sense, Alexander knew what to call it: courage. Atafe Ratafe had recognized that when she named him a champion. He also realized something. This was his answer. Felia, please be quiet about this. All right. The tilt of her head gradually increased, but paying her no mind, Alec reached for the door to the CEO's office. In his heart, he cradled the hope that Orsted would grant him the honor of fighting alongside a champion. It was scarcely a few minutes later that Alexander would get his answer from Orsted. Stupid. I thought this was about Lucy. I thought this chapter was about Lucy, and they're spending all of our time showing how dorky he is. It's fine. I like seeing a little bit more about him. I do like seeing a little bit more about him. Chapter 2, Lucy's First Day of School, Part 2. As much as possible, Rudius used the back roads. Even then, he felt like the disguise was drawing attention, but that was all in his head. Generally speaking, people aren't that interested in other people, unless they're dressed up like Orsted, really, because he was getting glances. A big cloak and a helmet, yeah? That was only natural. Some time had passed since Orsted had set up office in the outskirts. Not many people had seen him, but they generally knew what he looked like. To them, someone wearing a black helmet and a white cloak could only be Orsted. Given Rudius didn't have the curse, maybe he was leaving a good impression. That made Rudius want to hit the main street and do good deeds to improve his image. Just like he did for Dead End. The main street was closer to school too. Yeah, let's do it. It was two birds with one stone. If Orsted's rep improved, it would work out in Rudius' favor too. He also thought about holding a Dragon God festival, where everyone dressed up in white coats and helmets and partied all night. As he considered this and went towards the main road, he spotted something and ducked into the shadow. I think that's actually a really good idea. Again, it's the idea of sort of kind of, it's like general festival ideas of dressing up like demons and whatnot. Sort of kind of dampens that a little bit, that fear for demons. A redhead he knew well appeared on the main street. She was leading a big white dog with two children on its back along the road. It was Edis and Leo. Riding on Leo's back was Lada and Otis. Leo, you disloyal mutt. After wheezing out of walk with me, now you're out with Edis? Well, okay, with me, it was different. I was pretending to go on a walk for my own selfish reasons, but Edis and Leo were patrolling the perimeter, going for a real walk. Rudius was in a pickle. He hadn't thought he'd run into Edis here, but it was Edis. They could be in cahoots on this thing. He had to explain the outfit, though. She could draw her sword on him. Then there was the kids. He was doing something wrong, breaking his promise with Sylphie. He couldn't let them see him like this. Suddenly the guilt hits. Like suddenly out of nowhere. He sees the innocent children and suddenly the guilt hits him. Like, wait, I'm doing a naughty thing. This looked bad. Being a bad example on them. But I really want to see Lucy on her big day, Rudius thought. It was selfish. He knew that. It wasn't what Sylphie said. He wasn't doing it because he didn't trust Lucy. He wasn't here to help her from the shadows. I swear to God that I won't interfere, Rudius thought. Not even if Lucy looks like she's going to cry. Once she's home, I'll get the story from her. That's when I'll help her and give her advice. Got that, Rudius? That's the line. You cross it, you break your promise with Sylphie. He made that up without consulting Sylphie. But so long as he stuck to it, he wouldn't be doing anything wrong. Of course, once it was over, he'd be sure to talk to her and apologize. He would say, I was so desperate to see Lucy in class that I went. I couldn't restrain myself. Got that? You can handle that, right? You'll accept your scolding, yes? I sure will. All right. Good boy, Rudius. What the hell is this? Rudius is so gone. Rudius is so gone. He is so gone. This is one of those few moments where he's overthinking things that is kind of funny because he's literally just making out his own plotted plan and it's so stupid. And he has to like literally hype himself up and down himself. Woof, woof. Leo noticed Rudius. His nose was twitching and he was pointing in his direction. What is it, boy? What's up? Edis noticed too. It wasn't like a big problem if they found him. But explaining why he was dressed up like this would take a while. He didn't feel like getting held up. So he'd have to take a detour. You, sulking back there. Show yourself now. It was too late. Edis had already noticed him. This was what happened when you stood out. As he tried to keep cover and step away, Edis put her hand on her sword. Leo was wagging his tail. Leo already knows. Leo already knows. Then Rudius' eyes met the two siblings on Leo. Lara, her arms wrapped around Otis. The two gaped at him, with eyes full of innocence. Orsid? With a dubious look, Edis took her hand off her sword, at which Rudius turned to walk away, casual-like. They just happened to run into each other. Wait a minute. Rudius thought it was over. Edis was a sword king. She would be able to tell it wasn't Orsid at a glance. Yeah, it would be like how he walks. She should know based on how he walks. No, just my imagination. Come on, Leo. She turned away and started walking. She knows. She so knows. She so knows. Like, oh, Rudius is obviously doing this for a reason. She turned away and started walking. Leo glanced back at Rudius, but didn't chase him. All according to plan. His eyes met Lara and Otis's. Lara looked dreamy, and Otis was gaping. Rudius imagined the two of them were sending him off. No, Lara knows exactly who it is. Like, everybody but Otis knows exactly who this is. Finally, he arrived at the school. Avoiding the main gate, he scaled the wall and slipped inside. Then headed for the classrooms. He'd attended classes for a few years, so he knew where the first year classroom was. I would assume there's going to be a lot more than one classroom for the first years. There's going to be a lot more classes than one for first years. Again, this place has a lot of students. He set off towards it, staying out of sight of the students who were between classes or taking their lessons outside in the sunshine. The place hadn't changed one bit. It'd only been a few years, but the passage of the time had really hit him hard. He didn't recognize most kids. He saw more elves, beast folks, dwarves, and the such around than when he was a student. There was quite a few demons too. Roxy told Rudius over dinner one night that students with ties to the leaders of the elves and the dwarves were in the student council. With the voices and position of non-humans being more powerful, the number of students of other races enrolling from around the world increased. The school had never looked like this while Ariel was student council president. Despite the increase in numbers, the other races were getting along well. That was probably Norn's legacy as student council president. She didn't stand for interracial discrimination. She left her mark on the culture of the place. Some of the nobles from the magic nations apparently wrinkled their noses at that, but Rudius was personally proud. I like this. Again, I like how Ariel keeps getting thrown under the bus. Because we're kind of highlighting what Norn did for this university, one of the biggest achievements that she did for society here, because we have to keep highlighting that, we keep highlighting the fact that Ariel sucked at this. Ariel created order. That was the main thing that we're highlighting for her. She was able to at least create an order, but there was still problems. It was a lot more orderly than it was before. Again, you had like Linnea and Persenna going around causing problems and bossing people, and people were afraid. Ariel came in and created strict order. But there was still problems. But I think what they're sort of highlighting with Norn, they keep highlighting with Norn, is the idea that she sort of created a lot of equality in it. Ariel created order through strength in one power, whereas Norn created an equality between the student council and the actual students. But additionally, what they're highlighting here and we're getting into, which makes sense based on who she had at her side. She had a beast folk. She had a demon folk. It was a very interracial student council. And what that sort of creates is everybody, and I think this is actually probably something to add on top of what they talked about before. Because Reese was trying to figure out why there was so much more order. And he was assuming it was because there was so many like dunces in the student council that it made people want to help. And they were also seeing this idea of this feeling of being on an even playing field with them. But this could probably be more why. The idea that every single race in that school, all the students of different races, would see that they're being represented in the student council. And in reverse, Norn, through talking to these different individuals of different races, is able to understand them better and make decisions based on that. Yeah, the Beast Folk can say, hey, we shouldn't have this food at the cafeteria because it might be offensive to the Beast Folk. Okay, let's try something different. Let's have this because this is actually just as tasty, and a lot of people would really enjoy having that. Just as a quick example. And that seems to have sort of been a legacy that she left behind because having that equality has spread. More people are going, hey, they're kind of okay with Beast Folk being there. Oh, okay, let's try this. Let's send more of our people there. It seems like it's welcoming. And thus the amount of people from different races are now coming here. And yes, because that barrier has been broken by Norn and her student council, more beast folk and more dwarves and more elves are being accepted to being allowed in student council. It's not exclusive to, humans and Ariel and nobility. It's cool. It's cool. Lost in thought, Ruius walked along the corridor. Then, just as he was about to turn a corner, Ruius ran into a person who just came around the corner. They had 5 students in tow, or rather, 5 students clinging to them. While clinging sounds sort of unpleasant, the gist was that they were really popular. Given that the students were holding notebooks, presumably they were going over something from class that they didn't quite understand. Very admirable. Anything they wanted to know, this person would have the answer. Her lips only spoke the truth. Well, sometimes they were mistaken, but those mistakes were the truth too. You're all receiving a divine revelation, Ruius thought. Only her words hold that kind of power. Hear me, O students. Listen faithfully. Give their meaning careful thought, and apply them in your lives. O students, in this moment, you are truly blessed. Orsted? At last, she spoke, sleepy eyes narrowing in suspicion before turning up to look at Rudius. A few seconds passed, and then those eyes widened. Rudy, it's you, right? Isn't it? You couldn't get anything past Roxy. Her keen eyes were always finding the truth. How did you know? Riz had to ask. He was a fool and had to know. Roxy was brilliant. He knew that. Sometimes she probably just arrived at the truth without having to go through a whole journey to get there. It's because she's Roxy, obviously. The only one with the courage to pretend to be Orsted is you, Rudy. Does Sir Orsted know about this? It's a good observation. Yes. In fact, it was Sir Orsted's suggestion. Really? Then I suppose it'd be a good reason, right? Roxy stared at him. It seemed she had misunderstood him in just the right way. Was he going to deceive Roxy? Was he going to lie to her for a momentary attack of selfishness? Could he live with that? I like this is the moment where suddenly he can't lie or run away from the situation. No, it's not a good reason. He couldn't lie to Roxy. Well, he might do it to save his life, but this was different. If he lied here, the him from 20 years in the future would come swooping back in time to shoot a stone cannon at him. It's like an implying that like in 20 years, suddenly he's going to go, I should have never lied to her. I should have never, he's going to be like 50 years old. He's like, I should have never lied to her. The guilt still gets him. Or he would lose his identity as he liquefied into a blob. Then why are you dressed like that? I wanted to see Lucy. Lucy? I thought you promised Sylphie. I'm not trying to help her from behind the scenes or be an overprotective parent. I just, Lucy in her lessons. I wanted to see her. Roxy looked up at him. It was reproachful. The students around them weren't sure what to make of the situation between adults. At last, Roxy's gaze softened. All right, if you're sure you'll just watch and not offer any help, I'll pretend I didn't see you. Well, we'll say that Orsted came to inspect the university. Mistress, just this once, all right? Of course. Once I go home, I'll apologize to Sylphie too. Very good. God had forgiven him. He was in Roxy's debt. Best girl. Best girl. From this day forth, he would face Roxy and pay her the deepest obeisance 5 times a day. Now, I have to help the students with their studies before the next class, so... By the way, Rudy, do you know where Lucy's classroom is? Yes, of course. All right, then. Roxy gave his hand a quick squeeze, then walked away down the corridor. The students chased after her, asking who Ruius was. She was a hit. Of course she was. She was his teacher. Because he's best girl. Obviously. Right. Ruius psyched himself up again, setting off down the corridor. He arrived at the classroom. He tried to peek in from the corridor, but he figured it was a bad idea. So he ran around from the outside. If rumors spread that Orsted was spying in classrooms, it could affect the fortunes of the corporation. Thinking quickly, he made a partition screen near the classroom window so that no one would see him. Wait, what if I just went and observed the class and called it an inspection? Roxy had given him the green light. He could just ask. If he explained the situation to someone like Genius, he could make it look official. He'd miscalculated. Oh well. For now, he'd be happy just to see Lucy. He opened up... I wondered if that would be okay. Genius might actually at some point rat him out, though. I don't know, he might not. He opened up his eye of distant sight and looked through the window. Rows of desks filled the classroom, along with the neat rows of first-year students. Most of them were adults, older than 15. There were a few kids that looked around 10 or so. Almost none of them were 7, and the ones that looked little were mostly dwarves. In addition to the ordinary humans, there was demons, elves, dwarves, and beastfolk. Some looked kind, some looked peaceful, some looked cheeky. A good variety. The ones sitting in the back of the classroom were hard-faced, probably former adventurers. Surely they wouldn't bully a 7-year-old. Again, I think there is an element that, yeah, there's going to be some rough people, but at the same time, I think there's that maturity there that hopefully would help out balance the younger kids. Finally, he spotted Lucy. She was right in the front. It was his girl. The desk was so big, it'd be hard for her to see over the front of it. That was a problem. She was listening to the teacher with a serious look on her face, taking notes, but she looked uncomfortable. It might be a good idea to have her take a cushion tomorrow. Beside her was a girl who looked about 10, maybe a dwarf? No, she seemed human, and from the look of how her hair was done up, likely a noble. Now and then she said something to Lucy, then stared at her magic textbook. Apparently the custom of taking notes was unfamiliar to her. Serious-faced Lucy was pointing at the magic textbook and saying something. Maybe because she was whispering, Ruiz couldn't hear her. Maybe she was teaching her something. Had she already made a friend at her age? Had she settled in? Maybe it was because it was first day of class. The teacher didn't seem to be teaching them anything important. Based on what was on the blackboard, they were starting at the most elementary of elementary magic. Lucy had passed that years ago, so it was sure to be a piece of cake. Teacher! Just then, Lucy raised a hand. I actually found this part kind of interesting, because it was like, at first I'm like, oh no, an inconsistency. Nope, not inconsistency. Chill out. Yes, I heard that your mana capacity isn't the same all through your life, that it increased depending on how much you used magic as a child. I think what you're saying is wrong. Called out. Called out. Lucy called her out. What she was learning at the university and what Sylphie and Roxy had taught her didn't quite line up. Again, right here, I was like, wait, why is this lady teaching this? And why does Lucy have to point it out when, again, this was implemented into the University of Magic? This was something that they were implementing. Silent casting, and I believe the mana pool was specifically entered into the university. Lucy, sometimes it's better not to say these things, Ruiz thought. You won't find many teachers who are happy to be told they're wrong. What's your name? I'm Lucy. Lucy Greyrat. Greyrat? You're from Miss Roxy's household then? I am. Haha, I see you've had your education. The teacher's eyes glittered. She wasn't going to disrespect Roxy, was she? No way she'd disrespect the parent in front of her daughter. Ruiz made up his mind to show some restraint today, but tomorrow, all bets were off. Better not walk down any dark alleys tomorrow. Jeez, Ruiz, chill out. It is true that such a theory is circulated by certain people, and perhaps it was so for your father and your mother. It may also have been true for Miss Juliet. However, its veracity is, as of yet, unclear. Your father and mother and Miss Juliet may simply have been special. It may be that it does not apply to demons and beastfolk. It may even be that your father and Miss Roxy have misunderstood something. There has not been sufficient testing, and I was not involved in this research. As such, I teach that one's mana capacity stays the same throughout one's life. That is how it was for me. Respect. I respect that mindset. Yes, your parents has taught you this work for them, but you're telling me, and again, I respect their decision here. I respect what they're saying. I respect Roxy. I respect your father. That this worked for them. Your mother. This worked for them. That's fine to say that. But that's just them. I'm not going to teach an entire class in every single year because they said that happened that way. You have to research it. You have to have a pool of example this works. And yes, to a good point here. It might not work for beastfolk. It might not work for demons. Have they tested that? I can't say for sure yet. But the bigger shock for me is that this theory has not been tested. You would think that if Roxy came forth and presented this and said, here is 3 examples that it worked. Rudius, Sylphie, and here recently, Juliet. Why would they not be clamoring to test this out right now? You would think that the entire society would right now be going, holy crap, get me 100 children together and start using their magic, and we will test their mana pool, how many times they can conjure, and within a year, you should know. Within a year, you will know. Now they're casting 5 times, whereas before they were casting 2. There. Start mass producing this. This seems like this is legit. Why would they go this long without having proven this theory? Additionally, I do see there's kind of a side of this of like, crap, this is how it is now. I wish I had known this. I would kind of be a little bit jealous once I learned that. I mean, again, I would expect like Roxy even to be jealous of this idea. But again, Roxy found her own ways of getting around it, making it more efficient rather than, being able to build your mana pool. But again, I give massive respects here where she's going, yes, I can't refute what you're saying. And yes, this has been proposed by somebody that is respected in this university, but we don't know if it's true yet. We still have to test it. And so for now, I'm not going to spread misinformation. Until it's proven, I'm not going to say that it's proven, and then later on find out that, yes, it only applied for your parents because they were special. It only applied to Julie because she was special. You could have just had this really small pool that just happened to be successful. I'd give her massive credits here. The teacher went on and on, either to convince Lucy or herself. Lucy listened seriously. From here on, you, all of you, will learn a great many things, both magic and otherwise. You will learn while you're at school, and you will go on to learn after graduation. We are pioneers among magicians, and we will teach you a wide range of things. You may believe what we teach you or not. You are free to think for yourself. You may claim that we are wrong and prove as much. If you succeed in proving it, then it will be your turn to teach us. So, convince me. W teacher. W teacher. Again, this is established when Ruiz first arrived there, that there's all these schools of swordsmanship and everything that are super advanced, and they're just kind of now building it up. They're now building up magic. They're trying to show its worth and teach people magic and help it grow. There's still so much of magic that is just kind of unknown. To be able to acknowledge that, and yes, I think as a teacher, just in general, to acknowledge the idea that everything in science and whatnot can be disproven at some point, that there could be new information that comes forth that kind of flips the entire world of what we know, is important. To acknowledge that what you're here for right now is that I teach you this thing that we've established is sort of the truth. And then later on, you can figure out something and come back and disprove it, and then you'll teach it to us. W. W teacher. Ruth was satisfied with the open-minded attitude. She seemed like she wouldn't be a bad teacher. She might even be a good teacher. That is all. Any questions, Lucy? No, thank you. Good. Then you may be seated. Let us get back to the lesson. The teacher smiled, and Lucy sat down. A round of applause rose up from around her. Lucy turned to look at her classmates behind her, startled, then looked down. Face beat red. Don't worry, Lucy. You were correct. Forget whether it was really correct. Everyone who thought so clapped. You should be proud. Just then, the girl beside Lucy patted her on the head, then said something. Lucy looked up and grinned. That's right. You be best friends, my girl. You can fight, just so long as you're friends. Maurice went on watching Lucy's lessons for a while longer. Some of her teachers were good, some were bad. Lucy didn't hesitate to ask them questions and raise her doubts. The teachers sometimes answered and sometimes evaded. Sometimes they corrected Lucy's mistakes while going on with their lessons. She stood out. A 7-year-old girl with a keen mind for learning had to be a rarity. A crowd gathered around her at lunch breaks as she ate from her lunchbox. And by evening, Lucy was the talk of the school. People gathered around her asking her all sorts of questions about her parents, her family, where she lived, and about Lucy herself, a genuine celebrity. Some of the people probably knew that she was Ruiz's daughter and were trying to ingratiate themselves. That was fine. Every new person was a treasure. Even if a relationship started with selfish motives, you never knew where it would end up. And it's a long life. It wouldn't hurt her to get to know a few bad apples. That's a good mindset to have, because that was essentially my initial thought process there. It was like, oh yeah, it's people that are getting chummy with her because of that. There's, again, sort of a Norn issue there. It's that Norn effect of everybody going, oh, are you incredible like they are? That feeling of expectations being placed upon you. But I think depending on what your mindset is, where your mind is at, it can turn into something positive. The idea that initially somebody could be wanting to have, a shoe-in with Rudius and some sort of power, and then eventually go, okay, this girl's kind of cool. Like, I mean, that's definitely a commonality there. That's sort of something that happens a lot. As the final lesson ended, Rudius was satisfied. It was only the first day, and Lucy had already settled into her school life. Not that he'd been worried, of course. She was Sylphie's daughter. She, Roxy, and Edis had all given her a good education, so he had nothing to fear. Well, if there was anything, it was that she was his daughter. She could have easily just spent her first day in a seat on the edge of the classroom, pretending to be asleep, but she hadn't pulled anything like that. She'd face challenges from here on out, but she'd be okay. Lucy would go to school every day and make lots of wonderful memories, and he'd listen to her tell him all about it at the dinner table. He'd be able to enjoy his dinner with a smile. Aww. It was time to head home, but first he would give Orsted his coat and helmet back. With that, he lifted the earth wall spell that he'd used as a partition. Oh? On the other side of the wall was a woman. She was slim with white hair. She wore comfy-looking pants and a sleeveless top. Her white arms emerged from her shoulders and extended down to where her hands were planted on her hips. She looked annoyed. It was Sylphie. Grumper, Miss Grumper is here.
Ahem. What seems to be the problem?
He tried his hardest to sound like Orsted. What are you doing here, Rudy?
Oh, what brings you here, Sylphiette?
Lana said that she saw her father on her walk. She said your face was hidden, but you were dressed strangely. Oh, right. It was Leo. Leo betrayed him. He hadn't used his eyes. He used his nose. Reese's scent must have been mixed up with Orsted's, but if Leo said that he was there, Lada would have figured it out. And Leo and Lada would have talked together. That explained it. You dressed up. Her shoulders were trembling. That was anger. Sylphie was something else when she got angry. He couldn't explain exactly how, but when Sylphie was in a bad mood, it usually meant that he was totally in the wrong and the whole family was mad at him. It made life super uncomfortable. He might have to spend a week in the doghouse. Do you really trust me and Lucy so little? She started crying. This was bad. This was worse than anger. He got down on his knees. No, it's not like that. Not at all. I just wanted to see Lucy being brave. I want to see her shooting up her hand to ask a question in class and study it as hard as she could. It's just, I haven't been around much, to help raise Lucy. When he stammered out a response, Sylphie looked at him, still crying. Really? Really? I couldn't help myself. I was just going to tell you all about it once it was over. Sylphie regarded him for a moment. You're not lying, are you? You're lying, aren't you? It's the truth. I was going to apologize. You wanted to see Sylphie in class that much? Yes. Sylphie held out a hand to pull him to his feet. Her tears slowed. Then I was wrong. You wanted to see her that much, and I forbade you from getting a glimpse. No, you didn't do anything wrong. When you said it, I was convinced. Again, I thought it was kind of annoying back there when she said that he couldn't just at least go to the school, bring him there. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, again, like I said earlier, she said to trust her. That if anything happens, I'll handle it. She was saying at that point, I'll make sure she's safe. And she was under the impression that Rudius just wanted to go because he was afraid for Lucy. You want to protect her. I will protect her. Go to work. And now you're here. Do you not trust me to protect her and that she would be safe? That's her mindset. So I completely agree with Sylphie here in being upset. Her mindset was protection, and he wasn't allowing her protect her. If he would have just said, I wanted to watch these first, I think it would have probably worked out. Look at 2 chapters of miscommunication. Great. When he said it, I was convinced. Oh, Sylphie suddenly looked up with an expression that said, oh no. Rudius turned around, and the reason became clear. At some point, all the students in the classroom had turned to look out the window at them. That obviously included Lucy. She was staring at Rudius and Sylphie, and she was irked. Ew, gosh dang it. Mom, Dad, stop. Today I made friends with a girl named Belinda. Sylphie and Rudius walked home together with Lucy as a family. They walked in a row, each of them holding one of Lucy's hands. Rudius thought Lucy would have sulked over the fact that he came to school, but she didn't. It seemed that she had all sorts of fun during her first day at school, and she told him all about it one by one. Belinda said that she's the daughter of a renowned minister. She's like me, but clever. So they let her start school. She got a friend that's an Aisha. She said he wanted to be the best in school and show her father what she could do. Wow, that's amazing. Oh, and my first lesson was with Blue Mama. Everyone made fun of her, and I was so cross. But then Blue Mama, she said she'd do a little magic, and that made everyone go quiet. Then she said, if you don't want to listen to my class, that's up to you. She was so cool. Let's tell Blue Mama about that story at dinner. I'm sure she'll like it. This wasn't what Rudius planned, but it was nice. He squeezed Lucy's hand and walked side by side with Sylphie. It wasn't good to block up the street by walking a row like this, but who cared? This was my town. He's like, it's my place. Did you have fun at school, Lucy? Uh-huh. Lucy was glowing. Rudius had nothing to worry about. Hey, Dada. I was fine, wasn't I? Yes, you were. You were great. I'm your girl, Dada? I think you might be too amazing to be mine. Lucy was a splendid young woman. No matter how you looked at it, she didn't need a guardian. Now her father, on the other hand, he wasn't fine at all. He needed a guardian. By the way, Rudy? Huh? How long are you going to keep on that outfit? Ruiz remembered that he wore the thick white coat and the black helmet. He was still Shadow Orsted. I'll give them back tomorrow. Tomorrow will be fine. He hadn't said that he would return them today, and Orsted wasn't in a hurry as far as he knew. The fabric of the coat was really nice. It felt similar to red dragon skin. Interesting note. Aisha would probably know what it was. A question then occurred to Rudius. This is so wrong. If I'm interpreting this right, this is so wrong. I mean, you might... I don't blame him for checking, okay? I don't blame him for checking. He hasn't been around much. Orsted spent a lot of time with her. A question then occurred to Rudius. By the way, Lucy? It was a small thing. Just something he wanted to check. Yes, Dada. Question. What color is Dada's hair? He didn't ask because he didn't trust Lucy. He just wanted to check. It's so wrong. Brown. That's right. You're clever, Lucy. I'll expect big things of you. Yes, that's my girl. Don't make fun of me. Lucy pouted a little, and Rudy smiled back at her as they arrived at home. Only, Rudy, you broke your promise to me, so you have to go without for 3 days, okay? Understood. He'd have to live like a monk for a few days, but he was still happy. The next day, an odd rumor was going around town. People were saying that Orsted was after Lucy. It was probably because Rudius was walking around in that outfit. Rumors came and went. He knew they had no basis in reality. And so did Sylphie and the rest of the family. In the end, he wasn't worried, and so when Rudius returned the coat, and Orsted gave him a scary glare, he had to work hard to come up with an excuse to explain himself, but that was a story for another time. So dorky. Again, the idea here is that he was outside the classroom, and Sylphie confronted him, and then suddenly everybody in the classroom suddenly noticed them, including Lucy, and then at that point she goes home with presumably Orsted and Sylphie. And she's having fun with the two of them and answering all these questions. And then Rudius at some point is going, oh, that's right. I'm dressed up as Orsted. Does she know that I'm not Orsted? Who's your dada? It's like just making sure that she understands that she's walking home with Rudius and not Orsted and calling Orsted dada. Just let me make sure that she knows who her dad is. Anyways. All right. Let's move on to Chapter 3, Lucy's Family. A Lucy perspective chapter. No, I'm not doing her voice the entire time. I might slip some in there, but damn. My name is Lucy Greyrat. I'm the oldest daughter of the Greyrat family. My family is big. I have 3 mamas, 3 sisters, 3 brothers, 2 grandmas, 2 aunties, and 3 pets. 13 people and 3 animals in all. So big. I'll introduce my mamas. I have 3. One has white hair, one has blue hair, and one has red hair. White mama is the one who gave birth to me. She was my dada's first bride. I do really like the idea that they have established the idea that they are all mothers. And I think that's very important because it establishes an authority. Because I think the big problem that you can have is similar to the whole situation with Paul and Zenith and Lilia. The big problem that family had was that they kept Lilia as a maid. And she never should have been kept as a maid because it created that difference between Aisha and Norn. The way they handle their family, by essentially being a family with multiple wives, they create a separation there. And that caused massive problems for their children. Here it's establishing equality. They are all their mamas. Yes, there's still the element that you want to establish. This is the one that birthed you. This is the final say, basically. I think it is good to have a final say. This is the actual mom. This is the one that gave birth. This is the prime one for you. But I do like that equality that is created by having the red mama, white mama, and all kind of stuff. Is goofy what they actually call them based on their hair colors. Kind of dorky. Especially if one of them ends up using too much mana and then suddenly Roxy walks in there with white hair and they're like, oh, then there's the 2 white mamas now. It's dorky. She's the youngest of my mamas. And Dada says that she needed the most attention. White mama talks a lot. She says, making friends is important, and you must never bully the weak. She told me how important it was to value your friends. Blue hair mama is Lada's mama. She was Dada's second bride. She looks younger than the other mamas, but she's the oldest. Dada says that she's the most reliable. Blue mama didn't used to talk much, but she sometimes said, live the way you like, and if there's ever anything you don't understand, ask someone. There wasn't anything that she taught me herself, but she knew everything and answered all my questions. That's interesting because it acknowledges earlier that she taught her stuff. I don't know why she's saying here that she never taught me things herself. Now, I can see a reasoning for this. And again, this gets in that element that I was talking about earlier. I like to see the perspective of Lucy because she will call things out that normally people don't say. Because she's young and innocent, she will state things without a filter. And so I can see something right here sort of being a sign. And this is what I was kind of hoping for going through this chapter, is that we'll see little signs that might not be like solidification or like some revelation, but it could at least show a little bit more that most people won't end up saying themselves because they're afraid of offending somebody. I can see right here she's saying it this way as sort of showing that Roxy never taught me things herself because she would go through Sylphie. If she felt that Lucy needed to learn something or didn't know something, she'll go, okay, let me run it by Sylphie first because I don't want to step in front of Sylphie. Again, something we've talked about several times, like within, I think it was Journey of Two Lifetimes. There was at least one segment in there where it established once again that Roxy didn't want to be alone with Rudius without Sylphie knowing because she was afraid of sort of cutting in line. She herself has put herself in her place. It's kind of a Lilia thing, honestly. So I can see from Lucy's perspective, she never teaches me anything, but she has all the answers. And again, that's because Roxy would run it by Sylphie first. But again, earlier when she was in class, she was literally stating things that she was taught by Roxy. But again, it could have been through Sylphie. Red-haired mama is Otis's mama. She was Dada's third bride. She looks the oldest of my mamas. But Dada says that she's the most immature. Yeah, it's not really a thing you should be saying to your daughter. Anyways, Red Mama isn't very good with words, but she always told me, protecting someone, that's what's important. To do it, you have to be strong. She said that, and she trained me up. I want to follow everything my three mamas taught me. I want to make friends. Then I'll become strong so I can protect them. I will never bully the weak. If I'm in trouble, I'll ask Blue Mama what to do. If I do that, I can't go wrong, and they'll praise me. Dada will too. He'll say, aren't you clever, Lucy? You're such a good big sister. I have 4 brothers and sisters. The oldest is my sister, Lala. She's very kind. She has long hair, the same color as Blue Mama's, and she wears it in one braid. She's kind of strange. She often talks to Blonde Grandma and our pet, Bite. Grandma and Bite don't speak, but Lala can talk to them. Interesting. I wonder if that's a goof up, that it means to say Blonde Grandma and our pet, Leo. I don't think they've ever established before that she can talk to Bite, but that's very interesting. A plant, basically. It's still technically a monster. In the end, it's still a monster, but it sort of gives sentience to Bite, which they've established already. Bite, opens the gate for them and whatnot. Went to the wedding. Now I have a mental image of Groot with a suit on going to the wedding. But again, I don't think they've ever established that she was speaking to Bite. Weird. Very weird. And I guess that makes sense because, again, it was the same type of creature that was in the Megurian village. They had that same creature there. So again, it kind of makes sense. Which would imply that they communicate to those as well in that village. And again, to protect the farms and whatnot. Grandma and Bite didn't speak much, but Lotta could talk to them. Maybe because she was always out of it. Kids tease her and pull her hair when we play in the square. Ow. Again, I didn't read this. Ow. Implying that she is getting bullied. I tried to help her, but she doesn't look like she minds much. It's confusing. Yes, the question mark is she saying that she doesn't mind because she's trying to cover up? And often in cases with somebody being bullied, they're going to not want to worry other people, so they purposely accept it. Or is there an element here where she is very mature already, and thus she has accepted it? And again, a lot of that can come from the idea of her having spoken, basically, when she was still very young. Essentially speaking to, Zenith and whatnot in order to understand life a little bit more in a very early age. So she's matured a lot faster. And so the idea of kids teasing her and pulling her hair, she's like, yeah, whatever. Like, I don't really mind it so much. Again, as you get older, it's a little more easier to accept bullying of that type. You understand, they're just stupid kids. I don't really care. Interesting, very interesting. But that sucks to see that, yes, people are treating her differently. Something that Sylphie was afraid of for her child, having green hair, is sort of shown that with Lotta, she's already experiencing it. And thus meaning that, yes, the others will face that too, if they have special traits about them. That sucks. Suddenly this chapter got really blah. I don't like this. My poor little Lotta getting bullied. Rudius, nuke the town. Nuke the town, Rudius. She loves naps. She's always falling asleep on Leo's back. My eldest brother is Otis. He's a brave boy. His hair is the same color as Red Mama's, but it's short. He's cheeky, but he always tries to look after me and Lara. I think he's doing what his mama taught him, just like I am. Red Mama thinks he can do anything. Lately, they do a running and a sword practice every day. Otis is best friends with Auntie Aisha. He looks happy whenever they're together. Yeah, she lashed on him so freaking fast, which, yeah, I would assume could possibly be a Rudius replacement at some point. I wouldn't doubt. My littlest brother is Sieg. He's a crybaby. When he chases after Otis, he cries when he gets left behind. I scold Otis every time. When Sieg tries to get on Leo's back, Lotta shifts back a bit and pulls him up in front of her. She holds on to him to make sure that he doesn't fall off, then falls fast asleep. I just been a image of Lotta just pulling him up on there and then like wrapping his arm around it. Sleep. There's like a given benefit there of like, yes, I'm helping him out, but at the same time, it's time to snooze. I'm actually the only one who knows about it, but Sieg is super strong. He can pick up really heavy boxes without any problem. I would assume they would all discover this at some point. I mean, it's not as if he's trying to hide it. He's probably just doing it without even thinking about it. I have another little brother called Clive. He's the same age as Lotta, and he isn't actually my brother. He's White Mama's grandma's son. Mama says that he's like my cousin. I don't know what to call him, but he's my little brother. He comes to play at our house a lot, and he and Otis are friends. He's always hugging me. When I pat him on the head, he smiles like he's embarrassed. My little sisters are I didn't Rudius want to hook them up together? I think Rudius was implying the idea that he wanted Clive and Lucy to get together. And so it's already kind of implying here. He's like all huggy on her, and she pats his head and he smiles like he's embarrassed. Which is, I never really actually thought about it at the time, but yes, it's technically kind of in the family element there. I'm guessing they're saying he's like a cousin because they don't want to call Clive her uncle because it's a little weird. I'm guessing they're calling it like a cousin because it would be a great uncle, question mark? Because if Laws was still around, Clive would be Laws' brother, so it would be like a great uncle. So I guess it's just easier to say cousin. Just cousin. We'll go with that. Cousins are legal. Cousins are legal, not great uncles. Oh, okay, that's getting weird. I don't think I've ever actually thought about that. I guess it's because it's so... The distance of, like, lineage is so separate that it doesn't really click in my mind as a bother. But it's kind of weird. I'm going to marry my great uncle. Anyways. When I pat him on the head, he smiles like he's embarrassed. My littlest sisters are Lily and Christina. They were only just born. They're tiny, so I don't know what they're like, but they'll be good girls. I'm the big sister to all of them. Because I'm the big sister, my mamas always tell me that I have to be grown up, and I am. My little brothers and sisters are all very good, and I want to protect them. She was such a good girl. Such a good girl. Because that could technically go in a negative direction, in the idea that there's so much responsibility placed upon her. But I think because she's getting so much attention, it doesn't turn into a bad thing, because there's always a difficulty in having, multiple kids, and additionally having this many kids in the household can lead to her being isolated or left behind because the others need more attention. But again, because of the sort of structure they have, there's a lot of people that can be there for her. So it turns into something positive. I have two grandmas too. Blonde grandma is Dada's mother. Her name is Zenith. She's very pretty, but she doesn't talk, and she doesn't say anything if you talk to her. She's always in the garden with Bite, staring off into space. Whenever I'm sad or mad, she strokes my head. She's a strange grandma. I guess there's an aspect of not really understanding, but it's surprising they don't at least explain that to her. It seems like she's very intelligent. She's very smart, very intelligent, but why wouldn't she know at least the reason? Brown-haired grandma is Aisha's mother. Her name is Lilia. They say that she used to work as a maid at Grandpa's house. She still acts just like a maid. My three mamas like her. But when I was little, I didn't understand why she could be my grandma. Once on the street, I heard someone say, "The maid is your inferior. Order her around." I tried it. Damn it. Oopsie. Red Mama was nearby, and she got really mad at me. Good. She spanked me until my bottom was bright red, then put me out of the house and told me to spend the night thinking about what I'd done. I sat huddled up against Leo until brown-haired grandma let me back into the house. Hold on. She explained what had happened to me. That was how I learned that she was a maid, but she was also my grandma, and I was not to order her around. Interesting. Interesting. So this is showing how she established that Lilia is her grandmother. And the idea that at some point she didn't understand, they said that she was the maid, and she acts like the maid. This is what Lilia wants. She acts like the maid. And at some point, she hears someone say, the maid is your inferior, order her around. Now, it doesn't imply that somebody told her that. She's heard on the streets somebody say that. Probably somebody saying it to somebody else. But either way, I mean, it could have been somebody that was referencing to her. But what happens in the end is that she orders her, Edis hears it, smacks her bottom until it's bright red, and puts her out of the house. I'm actually surprised to see that Edis responded in that way. And I think that's obviously because she has learned through Rudius that this is something established. You do not treat them like they're maids. You do not treat them anything besides family. But I think there is an element that Edis herself loves Lilia and loves Aisha and will do anything to protect them, would put her life on the line to protect them. And so, to hear Lucy say that, to hear Lucy command her in any way, she wanted to quickly fix that. That's not happening. You're not going to treat her like she's inferior. Because the key thing there is that, again, she's nearby. She hears the maid is your inferior, order her around, and Lucy orders her. You not treat her like an inferior. Correct that ASAP. Interesting to see that Edis, of anybody, was the one that picked up on that and took action. But in the end, having Lilia come out there and explain what happened, and Lilia say that I am your grandmother and you are not to order me around. Lilia to say that does show that Lilia has changed, that this is something that she doesn't see anymore, that she doesn't see herself as the maid anymore, and that she understands, like everybody else, that Rudius has established in this household, she is a part of the family. She is not the maid. She could act like it all she wants, but you will not treat her or even call her a maid. Interesting. Very interesting. Ugh. Ugh. Got heavy all of a sudden. I also have two aunties. Both of them are still young, so they get angry when I call them auntie. And even though they are my aunties, they feel more like big sisters. My older auntie is blonde grandma's daughter and Dada's little sister. Her name is Norn. She always tries her very best, plays with me a lot, and teaches me lots of things. I love her. When I grow up, I'm gonna be just like her. I bet Norn... That's gonna get me emotional. I bet Norn would love to hear that. She won. Before she even got married before Aisha, she won against Aisha here. A little while ago, she got married, so she moved away. She barely ever comes home, and when she does, she's always arguing with my younger auntie. That sucks. And it's expected. It's expected. But showing that, yes, Aisha and Norn are still fighting. It looks like they don't like each other, but sometimes they smile while they argue. I think they're playing. I see that. I see that. I mean, that was a little bit scary for a minute there, and the idea that, again, after everything that happened with the wedding, and they got close there, and again, you know, going to teach me how to raise the kid and all that kind of stuff, that even now, when she comes home, they're bickering, but they're probably sitting there smiling as they're doing it, just because it's just like old days, you know? They're playfully fighting. Cute. My younger auntie is brown-haired grandma's daughter. They have different mamas, but she's Dada's little sister. Her name is Aisha. She always wears maid clothes, just like brown-haired grandma, and she runs the house. Whenever I do anything around the house, she helps. She teaches me anything I want to know about cooking and washing. Mama says that she's good at everything. I heard that she helps Dada with work. For some reason, brown-haired grandma sometimes gets mad at her. It's strange. I wonder what that means. I wonder what they're talking about there. They were implying, and this could just be standard fare. Again, this is something that Lilia has always been extremely harsh on Aisha, and that's basically created a lot of complex around her. So it's not to say this is anything new, but again, I'm going based on what somebody who will say the things that other people won't say brings up. She's bringing up specifically that she gets onto her, but I don't know why. For some reason, she sometimes gets mad at her. It's strange. It kind of shows a little bit of an element here where Lilia could be being unreasonable with Aisha, is what I'm getting at. That there's an unreasonableness here, and it's hard to really kind of dig into too much here because, again, it's going to be vague. But I wonder if that's sort of touching on something that we'll come into. Like, even Reese was talking about she keeps lazing around and Lilia kept getting onto her in this volume specifically. But there's a reason for that. It's because Lilia is kind of lost in thought. And it could be because, still to this point right here, Aisha is lost in thought and Lilia is getting onto her even to this point. Because again, this is something that's sort of thrown her off, is Norn getting married. I wonder if it's still happening. I have 3 pets. Leo is a big white dog and a guardian beast. He's really clever and understands what we say. He watches over everyone in the family, and Dada says that if I'm in trouble, I should go to Leo. Lada is his favorite. I'm surprised up to this point we still hadn't have Leo actually fight or do something. It's like, even to this point, we're in like the extra chapters off the side of the mainline series, and we still haven't seen him actually do Guardian stuff. Lada is his favorite, and when he's at home, he sticks to her like glue. Dillo, the armadillo, is Blue Mama's mount. I like how it says it's specifically her mount. Yes, we have her going to work constantly with Dillo, but it's like, from Lucy's perspective, that's Blue Mama's mount because she's always riding it. It is so funny to kind of think about the fact that where Dillo came from. It's when they went to the Begret continent and they bought this mount and they just took it home with them. He wasn't even sure if Dillo would survive in the cold climate, and yet years later, he's still the trusty mount. He's surviving by the will of the goddess, obviously. He's timid, and when he's told off, he either rolls over to show his belly or curls up in a ball. When anything happens while we're out, he sometimes growls and scares off whatever it is. In his own way, he tries to protect us too. Aww. Bite the Treant protects Auntie Aisha's vegetable garden. He's a plant monster, so I have no idea what he thinks about. He's often with Blonde Grandma and Lada. He has no mercy for anything that damages the garden crops. He gets nutrients from the little birds he catches, stealing Dada's favorite rice. He's scary, but he's never hurt anyone in the family. I'd be curious to see how he actually looks, if he's like just this massive Venus flytrap looking thing like in the anime from the ones at Magurdian Village. When we get close, he opens the gate for us and gives us fruit from the trees. He's family too. Interesting. I have lots of people in my family. I have lots of mamas and lots of little sisters and brothers, but I only have one Dada. I really love Dada. No, you have 2. There's Orsted too. Orsted Dada too. I really love Dada. I heard that when I was a baby, I used to avoid him, but now I don't. The way that he smells makes me feel totally safe. Sometimes his beard gets scratchy, but I like it too. Dada doesn't let me touch his beard much. Sometimes it gets really shaggy, but when I try to touch it, he gently takes my hand and says, "Sorry, I'll shave it now, okay?" Then he heads for the bathroom. I don't know why, but I guess Dada wants to. I wish he'd let me touch his beard, but I like him anyways. That's actually funny that Refugian's going out of his way to kind of mention that, because again, if I remember correctly, there was this whole segment where while she was afraid of him, she sort of seemed unpleasant because of his chin. Like, he wanted to hug her and she pulled away. So if my memory serves me correctly, it sort of implied the idea that Rudius got a feeling that this was something that caused her discomfort and it caused her to flee away from him. And so he's been going out of his way ever since then to shave it because he thinks that she doesn't like it. Just tell him. Just tell Dad, I like the beard. Grow it out. I feel Dada doesn't think I can do a lot. I'm not sure why, but it's how I feel. He worries about me, and he loves me, but he thinks I'm really little. I'm sure it's because Dada is so amazing. I don't know how he is, but everyone seems to think so. When he was my age, he could already do Saint Tier magic, and not only did he go to school, he ended up teaching. I'm surprised she's not doing Saint Tier yet. That's interesting. I mean, that's a lot of mana. And again, Rudius had Laplace Aspect that gave him a massive mana pool. But Roxy was willing to teach him that in order for him to graduate. Maybe she realized at some point that he had a massive mana pool, and so she's like, okay, so he can probably pull off Saint Tier magic. I don't think it's that much. I don't think Cumulonimbus is that much. I would assume right now Lada has the mana pool of at least Roxy, what she has. And maybe they just don't want to teach her yet. Maybe they just want her to get older, and so they're afraid of teaching her Saint Tier magic. I'd assume that she could pull it off at this point. And again, this is a lot of stuff that I would assume that Orsted was teaching her. I'm surprised. I hope they're going to get into Orsted. I hope at some point they get into Orsted, because it seemed like Orsted and her were connected. But yeah, I see this whole thing here, that there's an element that everybody seems to want to give her responsibility. They want to instill upon her that you protect your brothers and sisters. They're putting a weight of responsibility on her to be the big sister. The only one that doesn't is Rudius. Whenever Rudius is around her, he's constantly trying to dote and protect on her. And that has created an element in her mind that he doesn't seem to think that I am grown up. He doesn't feel that I am strong. He worries about me. But she still acknowledges he loves me. But he still thinks that I'm really little. It's this back and forth there, which is interesting. That is causing that in her mind, that he doesn't trust me, even though I'm strong and I am learning and I am protecting the family, or at least the brothers and sisters. When I turned 5 and started to go out to play in the town park, I started saying good morning to lots of different people. They all knew about Dada. The most important looking people were the ones who praised him the most. My mamas are amazing too, but I've known since I was little that Dada was really special. Dada doesn't expect much from me, and I guess he doesn't from anyone, but I want him to praise me. Dada doesn't expect much from me, and I guess he doesn't from anyone. Again, I think that's a side effect of him not wanting to pressure her. Everybody's telling her to do this, to be strong, to protect. Edis, protect your family. Sylphie, grow strong. Don't bully people. Roxy, I'll help you. If you have anything you want to question, let me know. Everybody's saying, be good to your sisters. You're the big sister. This is your expectations. Let's train you up. Let's get you stronger. Let's show you magic. Hey, need help learning how to cook? Need help learning how to clean? Everybody's putting responsibility on her and helping her grow. But Rudius is the only one that's afraid of doing that, because I think he has so little time with her that the little time that he has with her, he just wants to dote on her. And again, from a perspective of somebody like Rudius, he doesn't want to put expectations on her or push her into something, because again, he's had experience with that in his past. I didn't like when people put that expectation on me. I didn't like when people told me what to do. From her perspective, because there's all this expectation from everybody else, but nothing from Rudius, she feels that he doesn't expect anything of me. But at least she sees, and I guess he doesn't from anyone else. Again, he's not pushing on anybody else either. So maybe that means that he doesn't think that I'm weak. But yes, I want him to praise me. Of course. Of course. I've talked about this before in previous Mushoku Mondays. There's nothing more rewarding to a child than at some point having the parents say, you did good. You did good. I do what Mama teaches me, and I protect my little brothers and sisters. My Mama gives me lots of praise for that. I want Dada to praise me too. I'm already 7. Today I'm starting school. It's a school for grown-ups too. And it's where White Mama and Blue Mama and Dada all went. Red Mama didn't, but I heard that she teaches sword fighting there sometimes. Knowing you, Lucy, you'll be fine. Remember everything we've taught you, and you'll do great. That's what Blue Mama told me. But I'm still nervous. Will I do okay in a place full of grown-ups? Will I make friends? I'm happy, but I'm nervous. I'm sure if I do my best, Dada will praise me. That's why she's going in there all chippery, and she is able to put up with anything. That's almost a driving force for her, is that I want to have that praise from Papa. Amazing, Lucy. That's my girl, he'll say. He'll have high expectations for me, I bet. I'm going to work hard to meet them. I think he did in the end, didn't he? Didn't he at the very end? Hey, Dada, I was fine, wasn't I? Yes, you were. You were great. Though he does say afterwards, I don't think that you're mine. Though he does screw it up by saying, I don't think you're my child. Damn it. Yeah, that's chapter 3, Lucy's family. My gosh. Not as juicy as I was hoping. And I wasn't expecting like super juicy deets. Like, oh my gosh, this girl's gonna spill the beans. We're gonna find some deep secrets that nobody wants to talk about. But it's cute. I think this is probably did more for me than really any other chapter in really just kind of showing me the children. Again, like just having those little brief moments of, Lada pulling up Otis and them sitting on the back of Leo. That kind of stuff is great. Very interesting to see a little bit of into Lilia and Aisha right now, which I wasn't really expecting. But I think more so really breathing character into Lucy, which we've never really had. We just had timid, scared Lucy moments all the time. Rudy's constantly going Does she hate me? Does she hate me? Does she hate me? Does she hate me? Never really kind of getting into her mind. This is a girl that has a lot of expectations placed upon her. And thankfully, unlike a lot of cases like this, not buckling under it. This has proven to me that Lucy is a very, very strong character. Very emotionally strong character. This girl is ready for stuff. Which, yes, can sort of open the door to even harder breaks later on, if they would even get into it. But it at least shows me that this girl is ready for her future. And loves her dada. I'm just happy about that. I'm just happy that this girl loves her dada, because there has been so much question mark around that. I mean, really the transition from the point that she didn't accept her dad till finally accepting her dad is that element of finally acknowledging that this is the protector. And again, she said earlier, whenever I smell him, I feel like I'm safe. Dada's smell is the smell of safety. It's cute. It's very cute. I love it. I love it. That was a sweet chapter. I actually really love that. I think I wasn't a massive fan of the first two chapters. I don't think they were as great as they could have been. A lot of it's just a lot of sidetracking and Rudius just overthinking everything like usual. But this chapter, I loved it. I loved it. So, anyways, that's it for this Mushoku Monday. Glad that I got through the story as well. Looks like the next one we're getting into is Isolde looks for a husband. So we'll finally find out who Isolde ended up with in that manga. You guys are, I know there's a few people that were kind of going, oh, he doesn't know yet, when I was talking about that with the manga of A Journey of Two Lifetimes. But apparently we're going to get into it now. We'll see who Isolde ends up with. Maybe he'll end up with, who is the guy that, Trash Bin? Dustbin? Maybe Dustbin? There's Dustbin. Dustbin's Wayne Millis. That was just a total curveball I'm throwing out there. Over here is sold. I mean, Dustbin could technically, I don't know, through some sort of like trust program with Millis Church or something like that, transfer over. And so we have Dustbin get with her. But I think they kind of implied that Dustbin could end up with Therese. But I mean, over here we have Sander. I don't think Sander. I really don't. I kind of want Sander to get with Ghislaine, but yeah. Who else? I guess the only other male characters we have in the area is Doga. That'd be a weird one. That would be interesting. The only thing we have to go by is that she said they came over and said they would protect her, and that was like this big thing. And again, I kind of figured that because she's so strong, she's all about defense, the Water God style. The idea of somebody saying they'll protect you when you're as powerful as you are, it's kind of a sweet thing, because you expect that nobody will ever protect you. Nobody would ever claim to protect you. So to have somebody say that is kind of a big deal. It's just like, Ellen Elise. Cliff coming to her and saying, I'm going to help you and I'll accept everything and I'm going to fix this thing that you've been dealing with for thousands of years it sounds very naive, but it was enough. That's important to hear somebody finally say that. So somebody that would say they would protect her, I can see that being Sander. Doga technically protect Rudius. Doga technically was a protector. Like, he did technically talk very protecting of Rudius. He was big, tough boy protecting. He was a shield. I can't think of anybody else in that kingdom. So it would have to be somebody outside there. I don't see other male characters. I don't see Soldat. No. I don't see Soldat saying that. That's really it. I can't really think of anybody else, really. Anyways, we'll see. We'll see next week. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this Mushoku Monday. As always, thank you so much for dropping by for the premiere. Hey, chat. Hope you guys enjoyed this Mushoku Monday, as always. Greatly appreciate your guys' support. All of your kind words. All that stuff means a great, great deal to me. As per usual, like I always say, I never want to skip it. Greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate by the sports channel monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, memberships, all that stuff. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But until next Mushoku Monday, y'all take care. I want to sneeze so bad. I gotta sneeze. Without a doubt, it was his time at the Renoa University of Magic that allowed him to build his current rich people life.
There is no doubt that Sylphie's right. For me, and for her. Oh.